Hello and welcome. In this session, we are going to start with loops and some statements that we use in loops like break, continue, and pass. So, this is going to be very easy and very interesting. In the earlier sessions, we have covered operators, Boolean expressions, if-else statements. So, let's continue. I'm going to repelit.com, and here we have been creating our Python statements and all our code here. So I'm going to create a new file. I will go here, create a new file, and I will call this as loops.py, and it has come here. Also, to make this file run, I will go to main.py, and here I will import this. So all this we have also seen in the earlier sessions. I will say import loops, and I will comment out the earlier import, that is import if else. So now whenever I write anything here, any code here, and when I will run, it always runs the main.py, so it will come here and we have import loops here. So whatever I'll write here in the loops.py file will get executed. So let's check. I will say print, and I will say I am inside loops, and I will run and check, and yes, you can see this is running fine. So we can start our loops here. So here let us start with while loop. Now here the syntax for while loop will be, we say while and give some boolean expression and then a colon, and then in the next line we write whatever statements we have to write here. So basically, until this expression is true, it will continue this loop and it will continue running all the statements inside the loop, and as the condition here becomes false, it will come out of the loop. Okay, so let me just comment this out. I will keep all these notes, all the codes, everything in the description section of this video, so you can refer from there. And whenever you have any questions or any message for me, you can write your message in the comment section of this video. So here let us create a very simple while loop. I am saying let's say I take two numbers, a equals 4 and b equals 1, and I will say while b is less than or equals to a colon, and I will say print I am inside while loop, and then I will also increment the value of b by 1. So I will say b equals b plus 1. Okay, so what happens here is, the first time it comes in this loop, while loop, it checks the boolean expression or the statement b is less than equals a, which is true for the first time. So it will come inside the loop and will print I am inside while loop, and then it makes b to 2. So b equals b plus 1, that means b becomes 2 now. Second time also this statement is true until b is less than equals to a, that is until b is 4, it will run this statement. And once b becomes more than a, that is when b becomes 5, it will be false and will come out of the loop. So let's try to run this. I will save and run, and you can see it is running this 4 times. That means until b is from 1 to 4, it is running the loop, it is coming inside the loop, and then it is coming out of the loop. Okay, so here we have executed, the loop is executed 4 times, or we can say 4 iterations. So every one run of the loop is called as one iteration, so 4 iterations are executed here. So let's say if I have to write a program to find sum of natural numbers, I can do this using while loop. I can say let's say I want to find sum of numbers up to 10. I will say n equals 10 and take a variable called sum, make it to 0, and then I will take a counter called I and make it to 1, and then I can say while I is less than equals to n, and I will start the loop. I will say sum equals sum plus I, and then I will also increment I to I by 1. So I will say I equals I plus 1. And then after coming out of the loop, so you can see everything which is in this tabbed space is part of this loop. And then after coming out of the loop, I will say print sum is, and I will just print whatever the value of sum is now. So you can see sum is initially 0. At each iteration we are making sum equals sum plus I, and I starts from 1 and goes up to 10, because we are putting the condition here I is less than equals 10. So let's save and run this and check. So you can see sum is 55. So the sum of natural numbers up to 10 is 55. Okay, now we can also have while loop with the else statement. Okay, so the while loop can have an optional else block, and else is executed when condition in while is false. Okay, so let's see an example. I say I equals 0 and I say while I is less than equals to 3. So I will come inside the loop and I will print I am inside the loop, and then I am also saying I equals I plus 1, and then I will put a else statement here, and in the else statement I am printing I am inside else. Okay, so what I am doing here is I equals 0. I am checking until I is less than equals to 3. I will be going inside the loop, and once is more than 3, it will come out and go to the else statement. So let's see, I will run and check. So you can see here it ran the loop, and then finally it came to the else statement. Now these are some very simple basic examples I'm taking here. You can think of other conditions situation where this can work. So let's say you want to run a loop, and whenever there is something some condition is false, you want to run something else. So there you can use the else statement. Okay, now so this is how while loops works. Now let us see the for loop. Okay, so here we use for, and then we give value in sequence. So here for using for loops we can use a list or ranges. I will show you an example, and we again give a colon here, and then we give the whatever statements we have to run inside the loop. So let's see some examples. So I will say let's say I take a variable called numbers and I take a range. So we can use range in Python. So I can just say range, and I can give something like here 1 to 11. So in range the last number is not excluded. So that means when I say range 1 to 11, it will have numbers from 1 to 10. So if I have to run a loop on this range, it will run for 1 to 10. Okay, so this is how we can create a sequence of numbers. Alright, so I'll just put here range in Python is used to create sequence of numbers. Okay, I also take another variable called sum, make it to 0, and then I use a for loop. I will say for I. You can use any variable here, I or counter or x, y, z, anything. I'm saying I in numbers. So that means as long as there is some value in this range, that is numbers, I'm going to say sum equals sum plus I, or I can also say sum plus equals I. We have learned about this. If I say here sum plus equals I, that is equivalent to sum equals sum plus I. Okay, and then we will come outside the loop and say print sum is, and whatever is the value of sum now. So let's start. I will save and run this, and you can see here it is printing sum is 55. So using for loop as well, we can print sum of natural numbers using the range. So it is a little bit simpler. We just directly use range, and then we just say for I in this range, that is for any number in this range, for until we have numbers in this range, and we make the sum like this, we get the sum like this, and then we print the sum of these numbers. So you can imagine any other situation where you can use for loop. I can also say we can use for with else as well, like we have used else with while. We can use else with for loop as well. I can say here, let's say I will again take a range of numbers in a variable called numbers. I will take a range from 1 to 3, so I will have to say 1 to 4. That means it will have 1, 2 and 3, and then I will say for I in numbers, I will say print inside for loop, and then I will say else, and I will say print inside else. Okay, I will save and run, and you can see it is printing inside for loop, inside for loop, inside for loop 3 times. That is because we have range 1 to 4. That means it will take 1, 2 and 3, and then finally it goes to the else loop, the else part. Okay, we can also use loops on a list, like we can use a for loop in a on a range of numbers. I can also use for loop on a list. Let's say I create a variable called my list, and I can give something here, let's say 1, 3, 4, 8, anything, and then I can say for item in my list colon, and I will just print whatever is the value of the item is. I'll say print item, and then I can also have a else part. I will say print items completed. So let's run and check. So you can see it is printing all the items and then items completed. And I can have anything here. Let's say I can have blue. So this can be a list of these strings, whatever I want. I will run this again. So you can see it is printing all this and then going to the else block. Okay, so I hope this is fine until here. If you have any questions, you can let me know. And we can also we can have statements like break statement, continue statement, and pass statement. So let us see why do we use break, how and when can we use break statement. So let's say we have break, continue, and pass. So break and continue statements can alter the flow of a normal loop. Okay, let's see how it can be done. I'm taking a list of numbers. So we create list like this. We just use the square brackets, and whatever items you want to put inside the list, we can do that as we have done here. Okay, like this. So I'm creating a list of numbers. I'm saying 1, 3, 6, -3, 0, 7, 10, and then I'm running a loop, a for loop on this list. I will say I in numbers, and then I'm saying if I is less than 0, that means if I is negative, or if any number in this list is negative, then it will go inside this if condition, and I want to print value is negative, and then I also want to break out of this loop. All right, and otherwise if I'm inside this loop, I will say print whatever is the value of I. Okay, so now you can see it will start the loop here. So it will go to the first number, which is 1. It will check if I is less than 0. So 1 is less than 0 is false. So it will just go here, print the value, and again go to the next number, which is 3. Again this is false. It will print 3 here, then it will print 6 here. Then when it comes to -3, this becomes true. It will print value is negative, and then it will break the loop. Okay, so let us run and check. And yes, you can see it printed 1 here, 3, 6, and when it came to -3, it went to the if condition and then break the loop, so the other iterations are not executed. All right, now let us see an example for a continue statement. So continue statement is used to skip the current iteration of the loop. So let us see an example. I am saying I equals 1, and I will say while I is less than equals to, let's say, 5. So we are creating a while loop here. Until I is less than equal to 5, we will print value of I is, and I will print the value here. I am also going to increment I with 1, and then I'm just adding a if statement if I equals 3. So in the iteration when I becomes 3, I am going to this if condition and saying I is 3, and then I just want to continue. So I want to continue this particular iteration. I want to skip this particular iteration when I becomes 3. So let's see what happens here. I will save and run, and you can see here it says value of I is 1, value of I is 2. Okay, so it is printing all this, but when I becomes 3, it skips this and continues to the next iteration. Then it says value of I is 4, then 5. Actually it is printing this as well because we have this statement, print value of I is before this if condition. If I just keep this outside or after this if condition, you can then see the difference. Okay, so now I will save and run again. Sorry, this will make it a infinite loop. So you can see it will always continue once it becomes 3, and that is why it becomes an infinite loop. So therefore we have to put this before this here. Okay, so you can see it. If we take it as 0, then it will start from 1 because we are already incrementing it here, and then when it becomes 3, it skips that particular iteration. So this statement is not printed for when the value is 3. So this is just an example. You can think of situations where you would want to skip the loop, skip the iteration for some particular condition. Okay, let's take another example. I will say, I will take a list of numbers. I will say num, and I will say 1, 3, 4, -2, 5, 7, and I will say for val in num, and here I am adding a condition. If value is less than 0, that means negative number, then I just want to continue or skip that particular iteration. Otherwise I am going to print all the values. Okay, let me also add a print statement here just for a separator. I will run, and here you can see it is printing 1, it is printing 3, it is printing 4, but as the value becomes -2, it goes inside this condition, and then as we have used continue, it skips this particular iteration and then goes to the next iteration and then prints 5 and 7. Okay, then we also have the pass statement. Now whenever we have any loop or any function that is not yet implemented. Okay, so whenever you have any loop, any function that is not yet implemented, you don't have the actual exact code for that, but you still want to keep it inside your program so that whenever in future you have the code for that, you can implement it. So you can use the pass statement. So let's say for example, I say for n in this list, and I don't have the actual code here for the function or program, I will just use pass. So if I just run this, nothing will happen. You can see here it did not do anything. However, if I don't use pass and I just put a comment here, assuming that I will come later and I will write the code here, and if I use a comment and run, I will get a error here. Therefore, to not get an error and still have the function or the loop here so that you will know that there is something to be implemented in future, you can use the pass statement. Okay, so this is how we can use the loops in Python and these statements break, continue, pass. I hope this was useful. I will see you in the next session. Thank you for watching and never stop learning.